jurisdiction and forcing the conversation to the table is extremely important at this time, and that's the point of this particular conversation. So I think from here, I think I've said, oh, let's look at this one, presumption of jurisdiction. There is a presumption of jurisdiction in a state court in the absence of evidence showing that the state court had yielded or lacked jurisdiction over the property where an offense was committed. Again, in an opportunity that has presented itself, we're going to challenge a presumption of jurisdiction that the federal government is exercising relative to a state park. The jurisdiction is presumed to be in the state, and so we're going to exploit this principle and argue that the federal government does not have jurisdiction. And we're going to challenge the federal government to come up with and prove that it does have jurisdiction. Otherwise, the particular case that I'm referring to has to be thrown out. It's going to take place right here in Grand Junction in the federal court, and it's just a mere ticket, very simple ticket, but it goes to the issue of whether the state park has police power jurisdiction in the state park. And we're going to be coming from the place that they do not. So let's spend the next 20 minutes or so talking about any questions that might be good for conversation. Yes, sir.
We talked about the church and incorporation 501c3. Can a church who desires unincorporated and terminate their 501c3 status and then operate as a fully free church?
Yes, they could. And what I would recommend that church to do is contact Herb Titus. Herb Titus used to be Pat Robertson's chief legal counsel.
Okay.
And he and Pat got into a disagreement about jurisdiction and things like that. And so Herb Titus started a practice in Virginia.
Okay.
And I've had the privilege of spending several hours talking to Herb Titus about this very subject. And he's very available, and he's very interested in helping the churches extricate themselves from state jurisdiction. So there is actually a lawyer out there that understands and will fight.
I can contact him by...
I can get you that information.
Oh, I appreciate it.
Herb Titus.
And there's churches that are doing it.
Yes, and there is a movement of churches in this country that are going through the process of coming out from underneath the state's jurisdiction. So there's a process that has to be followed.
Okay, sure. Thank you.
Yes, Barb.
So yesterday at the Mesa County, Montrose and Delta meeting, our commissioner in Montrose brought up the fact that he is in favor of supporting the American Lands Council. Our three commissioners are in support of that. And Steve Aquafresa, the Mesa County commissioner, was poking fun. And so you guys really need to start pushing on your commissioners, especially Steve. You've got two good ones, Rose and John, but you need to start really pushing on Steve.
Done.
Apache,
I was just going to say that he's a lame duck.
Yeah, but if they try to put Scott McGinnis in or somebody like that, you've got one and the same.
Yeah.
So
there's a precedent. There's already a precedent. I'm sorry, forgive me, I'm interrupting.
Scott would be much worse.
exactly, exactly. And if he's the one that they're putting up, that's a scary thought.
He's already spent $40,000 on his campaign to be commissioner, and Rose Puglisi said she spent $15,000 in her entire campaign.
Apache County, Arizona has already invented the wheel. What we're talking about as far as the county exercising its true and proper jurisdiction has already been done in Apache County, Arizona, in circumstances where the county commissioners passed resolutions telling the Forest Service to clean up the forest. The county and the Forest Service entered into an interagency agreement, but the county was the one that ended up on top because the county was the one that ultimately had the jurisdiction. So you can go online, look up Board of County Commissioners of Apache County, and find the resolutions that were passed in Apache County. They have success. Now, and this may be the shot heard from around the world. Doyle Shamley was the individual that gets credit for his tenacity and his research in bringing all this together. But after the forest fire down there almost destroyed a little town, they got real busy on all of the principles that I've introduced to you today, and I'll credit them for giving me a lot of the information that I've turned around and basically regurgitated to you. The principle has already been established, it's set into motion, it has been done, it can be done again. So again, there are resolutions already in place down there, and they understand down there that a federal law enforcement officer has very limited jurisdiction, and if he operates outside of his jurisdiction by committing an arrest or, you know, in some way intruding into your freedom, he can be charged in his personal capacity because he is exercising an abuse of power. He's impersonating a police officer. So keep in mind that, and I have talked to a BLM officer. As a matter of fact, it was a year ago at a demonstration we did in front of the BLM office, and I asked him point blank, do you understand the limitations on your power? And I didn't finish the story. As he was sitting there in his armament, Roger was with me. Yeah. And he did. He absolutely knew and understand. He said that jurisdiction is the first thing we learn when we go to the academy. Wow. So they know, but if we don't press them, they will, for some reason, continue to pretend like they have something they don't have. So why they're doing that,
Not the bluff.
I can only speculate.
I'm on a board of church camp, Methodist Baptist on Grand Mesa, on Forest Service land, about 30 acres, and in Colorado land that the Forest Service has proprietary jurisdiction on. And they have been harassing us more and more in the last few years, and I wonder what would be your thoughts on what direction we should go. Should we go to the Delta County Sheriff or what?
I think we need to keep pressure on the sheriff.
Okay.
And respectfully, you know, we need to act with all of the things that those who are opposing these principles aren't. There's they're unscrupulous. There's you know, name calling. You know, we have to operate with an integrity and decorum and respect. And if we do that, I think that they will listen to us more. But we need, you know, everything I've shown you here is verifiable on the internet. You can find it downloaded. Go talk to the sheriff about it. Encourage the sheriff to come to meetings. But I think probably what would be better is that you call the sheriff and make an appointment and go talk to him.
I will.
And that conversation, you know, when your enemy has a face, he doesn't seem so terrifying anymore. So we need to put a face on those of us that are championing the principles of constitutional law and jurisdiction and the Declaration of Independence, and let these guys know that, you know, there's another side to the story that is not being considered. I was accused by a police officer. Well, he didn't accuse me. He asked me if I was a constitutionalist, and in the context suggested that do I want to go talk to the sheriff, suggesting that the state patrolman that I was talking to didn't have any authority. Well, it wasn't that he didn't have any authority. I was just challenging what he was doing at the time. It had nothing to do with me disrespecting the office. It's just that I was challenging an abuse of power that he was exercising. And I was being as respectful as I could. And that's a story I'm going to reserve to tell you a little bit later when the outcome washes out. But again, if we're standing for the principles, and this is where I have to start, if we're standing for the principles of the kingdom of heaven on earth, inside the scope of the delegation of power that Jesus himself granted to his disciples and his followers, if we're operating within that, I believe that that is what makes and distinguishes America as being a great nation. But if we come off those fundamental principles, throw God out, throw truth out, throw justice and integrity out, then we're basically competing with them. And I know that some politicians have talked about needing to fight dirty because that's just the way the game is played at that level. You know, if we compromise our integrity to that point, then we've already bought into their system of disintegration, and we will lose.
Doesn't mean that we aren't arguing from a position of strength.
We are arguing from a position of truth.
Absolutely.
We have the law, you know, this is,
And you have to carry that conviction and deliver it respectfully.
the law is on our side, the truth is on our side. Yeah, and so, yeah, with knowledge and truth and law on our side, it just takes the delivery system now.
So David, this came to me here because I know one of the last one you talked about is, no, I don't understand your system. When you were asked, I think in a previous court case you were involved with, you said, no, I don't understand. But here we are today saying, yes, let's work within the aspects of the law, but then you get up before it, you say you don't recognize what it's become, or you don't recognize the basis of the law we have in place today.
Okay, remember I said I reserve the right to change my mind? In the case where I initially challenged the judge, I didn't understand. The case continued, the judge ran right over the top of me. I was not able to stop him. And I saw that in the process of doing what I was doing, I saw the futility in that kind of an approach. So I have abandoned that approach, and now I'm trying something new. You know, doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results does not work. So I'm always adjusting how I'm approaching the system and how I'm going to interface in such a way that I can plant an idea, plant a seed of some kind that lets them see the power of the truth in what we're attempting to accomplish. Specifically, no, I decided to come off that position because it was fruitless. Was going nowhere fast. So,
Other than a mental evaluation, correct?
yeah, well, which I defied. The judge ordered me to go take a mental competency evaluation, but I refused. When the judge asked me why I refused, I said, because you don't have the jurisdiction to order me to do that. And he immediately backed off, and he agreed that he didn't, but he continued, the case moved forward regardless. So, jurisdiction, any other questions with regard to jurisdiction and power? So the people of the state of Colorado have the sole and exclusive right of governing themselves as a free, sovereign, and independent state, and to alter or abolish their constitution and form of government whenever they deem it necessary to their safety and happiness. That is fundamental Colorado law. I mean, that's, you know, right in the book. What do we do with that? We say, oh no, the federal government, you know, oh no, the United Nations, oh no, Agenda 21. Well, if we take the law as it was intended, the law as it was intended trumps all of those things, but learning how to play that hand is really what we're up against. And so, and jurisdiction is a very critical element in the understanding, because again, like I said, Article 3, look it up online, Colorado Revised Statutes, Article 3 tells you the limitations on the federal government's jurisdiction. And if the federal government doesn't have it, the state of Colorado does have it. If the state of Colorado has it, it was delegated to the county commissioners who have it. So the county commissioners and the sheriff have it. So rather than the federal government commandeering the state and then commandeering the sheriff and then commandeering the county commissioners and then plugging in Homeland Security and FEMA and the Forest Service and the Park Service and the Forest Service, you know, that's what's coming, and we all see it and we all know it. That's the way they're working. A well-regulated militia necessary for the security of a free state. It doesn't say a well-regulated Department of Homeland Security. It doesn't say a well-regulated Forest Service, a well-regulated National Park Service, a well-regulated Federal Emergency Management Agency. It says a well-regulated militia necessary for the security of a free state. The right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. The sheriff is the man. We have to support our sheriff. And we have to support our Board of Commissioners. We get behind them and show them who we are and what we're up to and champion them. I think they'll champion us. I think it'll be reciprocal. And so that's what I'm promoting recently And if they don't, then we're going to have to figure out a way to get them to look like going and tearing up a barricade on a road. Putting ourselves in harm's way to call attention to a usurpation, to make them get angry at us, and so they'll at least have a conversation about it. And I would have loved to have been behind closed doors to hear some of those conversations. Because in the end, we were on the right side of the argument. So it was just a matter of time for them to come around and see it. So that's the nice thing about time, is if we're standing in the truth, time ultimately proves us and vindicates us. Sir?
Just out of curiosity, Dave, who has the, I hate it when this happens, jurisdiction over impeaching Obama?
The House of Representatives has to bring articles of impeachment. Articles of impeachment is like an indictment. It'd be no different than you getting a traffic ticket. Only the indictment has to come from a grand jury. So the House of Representatives would act like a grand jury, and they would bring articles of impeachment against Obama. The case would be tried in the Senate, and a Supreme Court justice would be the one presiding over the case. That's how that would go about happening.
I have video on our site of me asking Scott Tipton why he hasn't brought articles of impeachment against Obama since you asked. I mean, Bruce Fine is a legal scholar who wrote articles of impeachment against Clinton, and he has this great article about all these reasons why Obama has committed this is impeachable, and that's on like WND.com. But Tipton just said, there's in the 2-minute video, Tipton uses the word process, I think like 8 times. That there's a process, we have to respect the process, we don't have the votes, this is not the time, and we have to let this process unfold.
And I'm a chicken.
So he's not interested. So I said, we want you to use our seat to champion this and bring attention to this, not subject to some process that you're a part of this inertia.
And, ultimately, he is representing the people of Colorado no, not this district.
Yeah.
This
is our district.
This is your district too? Okay, so Chips is in this district. Yeah, if the people insist that, articles of impeachment be brought, then he, maybe somebody in this district needs to champion that idea and talk to Tipton about, now here they are, why aren't, we would like you, because he's technically the representative of the people.
Right.
So he's not representing, but I have to say this.
You're on camera.
He is supposed to be, he took an oath of office to support the Constitution. Remember when I said the D and the R needs to go away? When they go up in that office, they're representing the people. So their political persuasion is irrelevant. What's relevant is what did he swear an oath to uphold and defend, and that was the Constitution. And if that was his oath, and that's truly his oath, and he's representing the people, just because a majority of the people say that he needs to do something, that doesn't bind him. What binds him is his oath to the Constitution. So a majority rule, if a majority of people come up and say, we want you to impeach Obama, and Obama really wasn't doing anything impeachable, he would not be bound to the will of the people. He's bound to the Constitution. Right. This is not a democracy when it comes to his oath of office. But if the majority of the people come up and say, no, he's violated the Constitution blatantly, here, and he has, and Tipton doesn't step up and bring those articles of impeachment, then Tipton's complicit in whatever Obama is doing. And if the rest of the congressmen are doing the same thing, then they're complicit too.
And it doesn't take a majority to declare impeachment. It's just
representative.
a minority who's right.
Recall. It would be a recall.
It would be a recall.
In
So-
some future class, could you tell us about the oath that people take and what it means and how to use it?
The oath of office?
Yeah, the oath of office.
Yeah, that would be something that we'll cover, but suffice it to say right now, it was, and I don't know, I didn't verify this, but several weeks ago I understood Michelle Bachmann to be bringing forth articles of impeachment, and that's about all I heard about it. Did it even happen? So, you know, you know, when Louis T. McFadden, back in 1933, who was the chairman of the House Banking Committee, stood up on the congressional floor